Okay, we're back with Josh. And now we're going to show how Copilot, not we, Josh is going to show us how Copilot is going to help you analyze the code that you've either written or inherited, because half the time it's inherited. And then also, how do you analyze it and figure out what it means for your business? Josh, back to you.
The other thing that Copilot can really help you as well in the notebook is it can help you understand code, right? It can be able to summarize and even explain code. Like, for example, in this case, I'm working with code that Someleza wrote, and I'll go ahead and try and analyze, and understand the code he wrote with the help of Copilot, right? And I'll show you that in a second, right?
Perfect. Poor Someleza. He's
Now,
like, my code is obvious, dude. What's wrong with you? Like, Someleza, it's for demo purposes. Your code is beautiful.
yeah. All right. So we see it went ahead and added the required packages, and also there you get a disclaimer. Your data is not used to train the underlying machine learning models. It's not used. It's not available to other customer, and also your data is not stored, right? So we have that, and then
this is so important because everyone says, "Oh, are you going to use my data for someone else?" I say, we don't even use our data for ourselves, much less your data for someone else. No, these are boundaries. Walled gardens, people. This is great. Okay. Yeah.
Exactly. And so it goes ahead and gives you some few commands. The chart magics command that we're going to be using, you can see a few. We have like the chart command that allows you to ask questions inside your notebook. So like I can easily use the chart command inside the notebook, and it's going to answer questions directly. I have the code command that can generate code. I have the describe that allows you to describe a loaded data frame and add comments. And we're going to see all of these. You even have a fix errors command where if you are in a code block that has some errors, you can just use the fix errors command, and Copilot goes ahead and helps
I love that.
fix the
That's
errors
a good
for
one.
you.
Fix it. Fix it. Yep.
Exactly. Exactly. And so we have a ton more. So the moment you add the required packages, you're going to get a good explanation for that. So let's dive into it. So I see the first cell here. What he was trying to do was kind of loading the data from the lakehouse. So this seems pretty straightforward. So I'm just going to run that. So, we're loading data from the person table, and then we're loading data from the dimensions table and loading the data from the cells table, right? That seems pretty straightforward. And that executed successfully. Now I need to kind of understand what was going on in the next other cells, right?
Yep.
So what I'll do is I'll add a chart magics here, and I'm going to ask Copilot using the chart command, can you explain this block of code step by step, please? So I'm just going to add that. And I'll also, as that is running, I'm going to add the other prompt down here and also execute that, and then wait for this to complete execution. All right, so we see the first one kind of complete, says this block of code is using PySpark to manipulate data frames. So one, it imports the necessary functions. So you can be able to see here it's importing the necessary functions. It joins two data frames, the sales and the products on product ID. Oh, that's here, right? And then down here, it then joins the DF sales with another. So here it's joining it with another, the person data frame, and then it drops the address line 2 and then renames the columns. Okay, and finally it gives me a summary. The purpose of this code is to merge sales, product, and person details into a single data frame for further analysis or processing in a PySpark environment. Oh, that makes sense. So we kind of loaded these three tables and then combined them into one data frame.
I love that it did it in line, and it's grabbing the context and then putting. Yeah, this is cool. This is great.
Yeah. Let's see the second block. This was long. This was large.
Oh, yeah.
So seems like this block of code is again using PySpark to pass XML data. Okay, the XML data I showed you when we were starting, okay, and transform it into a structured data frame. It starts by defining a schema with specified fields, and then defines a function, okay, to pass the values from the XML string, and then a user-defined function is created. Okay, what's a user-defined function?
No idea.
Interesting. So I can quickly jump onto the Copilot pane on the left, mentions of a user-defined function. I can just jump in here and go ahead and ask, what's a UDF? Right?
What is a user-defined function, actually?
Right, there you go. So a user-defined function
Mm-hmm.
in the context of PySpark is a way to define custom function that can be applied to data frame columns. Okay, that makes sense because we're trying to transform the demographics column that
Mm-hmm.
has XML data to extract that data into to transform it and extract it into its individual columns. So that makes sense. That
Yes.
kind of makes sense. That puts everything in context, right?
Yep.
And it still provides an in-depth definition of what a user-defined function is. So you can see how flexible or how easy it is to switch from using the chat magics and using Copilot inline with code, and also switching to the Copilot panel on the right, to also interact with Copilot as well in chat. So you have these two capabilities. In code, you can use the chat magics, and also you have the Copilot pane that you can chat with, like just like the same way you access other Copilots. Right.
This is great.
So
Okay.
now that we kind of have an understanding of what we're dealing with, for future reference, what I'm going to do is I do understand, but I think it's nice if I have comments in his code so that like next time it's kind of clear what's happening, right? So I'm
Yes.
just going to add another chat magic and ask Copilot, just add the comments for me.
Mm-hmm.
Next time, it's going to be clear even for someone else who comes and uses this code, right? And see, Copilot goes ahead and adds the columns and even removes the chat magic that we had added there and adds all the comments that we need.
What I like that you did here is first you used a copilot to understand, and then you used a copilot to understand what that copilot is saying. And then you're actually fixing it so the next person who comes along and inherits this doesn't have the same issue. That's fantastic.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love this. This is just a
So
good
now we have the
lesson
comments.
in engineering. Everyone should be paying attention on how to be a good engineer in the world today. How to be a 10x engineer? Make life 10x easier for others. Thank you.
Exactly. So we've added the comments, and you can even go ahead and do the same for the other code blocks. So
Yep.
we never understand what's going on with this notebook, right?
Yep.
So I'll just go ahead and execute these two cells and let them run, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so these are going to take a few seconds. So the first one completed, and I think even the second one completed, right?
Yep.
Awesome. So I can see we've had this data frame that we've been doing transformations across, but how does it look like at this point? What kind of data is being held in this data frame? So what I'll do, I'll use another chat magic now, not to understand the code. We've now used Copilot to understand the code, but can Copilot also help us understand the data that is held in this data frame? Like what kind of columns are inside this data frame? So I can use the describe chat magic and then ask it, please, can you describe this data frame for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what happens is, okay, Copilot comes back and it says, okay, in this data frame, it's a data set containing customer details, such as personal information, their purchase history, and demographic data. And it goes ahead and lists the 10 columns. We have the first name all the way to the number of children living at home. And down here, it even provides for us, all the other columns that are inside this data frame, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now we know what kind of columns we're dealing with inside inside this particular data frame. So now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to kind of display this data frame. So let me display so that I can show you something. F custom details. So I'm going to display and I'm going to minimize that so that we have more real estate here. Okay.
Yeah.
And from up to this point, Donna, you can see how fast it is to get started with the help of Copilot. We've come in, we've loaded data, we've been able to understand what the code does. We've done some fixes like adding comments very fast. And now we are ready to start beginning doing the transformations, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of have an understanding of the data we're dealing with. And if I look at the data that I'm dealing with here, if I scroll over to this column, total purchase column year to date, it has all null values, right? So I think it's not going to be relevant to have this column because it doesn't have any values in it, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to use Copilot and just let's get rid of that column, right?
Yep.
So I'm going to introduce a new chart magic. Previously, we were using the chart, for it to provide answers in regards to the query that we provide. Now I'm using the code chart magic. So what that does, it should generate code for us to remove the total year-to-date column. And you notice that I didn't even need to provide the name of the data frame that I'm working with.
It's able to
Copilot
find it.
has the
All you
context.
did was give it the name of the column. You didn't even say the table, data frame, where, nothing. That's great.
No. Exactly.
Well, first,
and it goes
good
ahead
labeling
and
is important, but also this is really cool. Okay.
Exactly. So it goes ahead and generates the code for us to drop this particular column. And just like that, we've dropped this column. So you can think it's just like I'm writing my code in natural language. I'm just like, remove this column, we remove the column and then we progress. So now that we've been able to remove this column, the other thing I want you to notice is we do have the birth date for these particular people here. We have the birth date, but we do have the birth date here, right? But we do not have their age, right? And the data that I'm using here is a subset from the year 2012. So it's not the full data set, but it's a data set from the subset of the year 2012. So what I'm going to do is I also need to add an age column, right?
Yes.
And for this, let's use the Copilot panel on the right. So I'm just going to say add a column age to this particular data frame and use 2012 as the current year. So don't calculate age using this year, just use 2012 because my data set is a subset of the year 2012, right?
I like that you could casually ask this Copilot to add a column. That's really interesting.
Exactly. So what Copilot does, it comes back to us with an answer. And so the answer contains this code response card. So we have a code response card that has the card with the details for the code. And then apart from providing you with the code, it goes ahead and explains. So like it provides, it goes ahead and what it's doing. So like the first step, we're importing some of the required functions for us to perform the calculations. And then from there, we are adding a new column age to the data frame and calculating the age of the customers using the current year, 2012, and the birth date. And finally, we are printing the schema, right? So seems pretty straightforward, but it does a good job of explaining and even provides a final summary here in terms of what are we doing. So, we are enhancing the existing data frame. So basically, we're doing that transformation by adding an age column based on the customer's birth dates, assuming 2012 as the current year. Which does what we had as age to, right? So on this response card, you have two buttons. You have a button to copy code, and you also have a button to insert code. If I click on the insert code button, Copilot goes ahead and inserts that code into the notebook, and I can execute that code as well.
Okay. And I got what you're doing now. Okay. Yeah.
Exactly. And see what it did here? Yeah. We have the age column added as well on top of one, right? So seems like everything is going well. And we kind of have done some few basic transformations. And one of the things to highlight, always every time you copy code, every time Copilot generates code for you, always take time to review it. It's a Copilot, not an autopilot. You're the one always in charge.
Yep.
And you can see that even in all the code generated responses, it always mentions it's AI generated code. It can include errors. So always take time to review the code and ensure it does what exactly you want it to do before executing it.
I think this is awesome.
All right. Now, the next thing we can do is, I think we've done some of the transformations that we needed, but can we do some visualizations? Remember I mentioned one of the things Copilot can do is assist you to figure out how best to analyze your data, right?
Yes.
So if you come onto the Copilot panel on the left, we have this small icon here we call the prompt guide. All right. You have this. So if you click on the prompt guide, you get this we have these three suggestions, and you can see we can start with, like suggest data visualizations, generate insights from my data,
Right.
and even load data from my lakehouse, right? And
I
we
love
can,
it.
for
Okay.
example, use the generate insights from my data, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it generates this prompt and says, analyze, you provide the data name here and provide insights about the data. So I'm just going to use the same data frame that we've been using, and I'm going to paste it in here.
Yep.
All right. Okay. And then just submit that to the prompt, to Copilot.
So when you say provide
And
insights, you don't just get sentences, you could get a visualization.
so at this point, it's going to provide you sentences.
Okay, now you
But
get
if
sentences.
you want to get the visualizations, you just go ahead and ask, and we're going to look at that. So you can see some of the insights that Copilot has been able to figure out is, like the demographics that exist there, right? In the purchase behavior, we see the age distribution, and so on and so forth. We can also try another prompt, right? Let's try the suggest data visualizations, right? And we can add that, analyze.
Come on, Copilot.
So
give
it's
us
going
some
to
beautiful visualizations to put into a report that we did not have to make.
So what it's going to do it's first going to give us some of the analysis, some of the ways we can visualize, and then we can go ahead and ask Copilot, can you help us now create the actual visualizations? So like it says some of the suggestions for visualization, is age distribution, right? Gender distribution, marital status distribution, education comparison, and so on, and so on and so forth, right?
Yes. I love it. You have to put your word a little bit. Okay.
Exactly. Exactly. So I'm going to go ahead and ask Copilot, can it tell us, you know, you can be able to choose one of these from here and ask Copilot, okay, we can pick one of these, like visualize the distribution of customer ages using a histogram to understand the age demographics, right? So we can like, for example, just copy that in and paste in.
I am so curious about what it's going to give you.
So it should go ahead and generate code for us, for us to perform, for us to get the visualization. So I'm going to insert code. Okay. And goes ahead and inserts
the code. Very nice.
That's great. We can run.
That's great.
Right, so this will take a few seconds. And as we wait for this to run, I think it's now time to segue into the data science side and try build the model to predict the possibility for a customer purchasing a bike, right? So as we're waiting for this to complete running,
come on, Copilot, be good.
Yeah. And so up to this point, some of the key, we've been able to see three main things we can do with Copilot. One, we've seen how we can best, it gives you ways for how best to analyze your data. So if you're stuck in that analysis paralysis, like where do I get started with analyzing my data? Copilot gives you a head start, like, you can start from here, right? Number two, Copilot is allowing you to write your code faster by code generation, right? You're able to ask Copilot, hey, I need this, I need to do this, and Copilot goes ahead and generates the code for you. And the last key thing we've been able to see is the capability for Copilot to summarize and even explain code for you, right? And there are some few more things we've not mentioned there, like even code translation, right? We have a chat magic that allows you to perform code translation, right? So you can be able to translate code from one language to the other, right? And so we've also been able to see we have a chat magic that allows you to fix errors, right? We have a chat magic that also allows you to add comments. Okay, so the output size is too large. Okay, so I think it's because we we used what is it called? We used the entire data set. So maybe we could have used a subset of the data set, right?
Right.
So maybe I can go ahead here and try fix this with Copilot. And I'm just going to ask it to generate code for me, but instead of using the whole data set, just use a subset of the of the data set. So like maybe use the top 1,000 records. So code use the first 1,000 items in the data frame. So let's see whether it's able to give us code for that. Okay, so it only gave us this, so it didn't generate the entire thing, but we can just fix these ourselves, right?
Yeah.
We can just fix these ourselves and just fix these ourselves by df. Yeah, so I can just do this df details. Let's use this data frame. Okay, so, and then we can now go ahead and do the visualization again. So let's attempt these fingers.
I like this because this is such a Copilot activity you're doing, where it gives you something, but you, the expert, know how to fix it to actually be good. Oh, look at this. You got something.
Yeah. Right. So we've been able up to this point to generate, to perform some transformations and do a little bit of visualizations, right?
Yes.
And we hit a challenge and still tapped into the power of Copilot and fixed it, right? So now I think we can segue and see now, like, how will the data scientist as well leverage the capabilities of Copilot as well, right? So what we're going to do is we're trying to predict, and I'm going to show you the data we're dealing with, display, EF, customer details. So if you look at the data we're dealing with, we're trying to predict if the likelihood of a customer purchasing a bike, right?
Right.
So if you check the product category right here, so it's just showing the top one. So, but if you scroll down, if you check a few more records down there, we have a product category called bikes, right? But for us to be able to fit this data into the machine learning model, we need to add a new column that kind of performs one final transformation, where if we add one more column where if the product category is clothing, it is bikes is 1, and then if it's clothing, it's 0. So that's the final transformation we need to do, right?
Okay.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Copilot to create a new column for us, to add a new column and I kind of add a new column to add a new column to this particular data frame.
Like, how likely are they to be a bike buyer, right? Is what you're asking.
Exactly.
Just based on this information. Okay, cool. I love it.
So so for this column,
1 or 0. Okay.
Exactly, 1 or 0.
Yeah.
So I'm going to add that.
Okay, I see what you're doing. You're saying, here's all the info. Clothing does not equal bike. Let's figure out if they're likely to buy a bike. The ones they are, those are the ones we would target, like the sales campaign or whatever it is. Yeah.
Exactly. So here's the code. The code that is going to add a new column called this bikes buyer. If the product category is bikes, if we have it as 1, if it's not, we have it as 0, right? So we're done with that. And I think pretty confident now we can go ahead, but one more thing I would like to do before we build the analytics model, what I would like to do is save this data into the lakehouse, right? We've done quite some transformations here, right? So I would like us to save this data into the lakehouse. So I'm going to also ask Copilot, okay, now please save this data frame that we've been doing transformations on and save it to the lakehouse, right? So it's going to go ahead and generate some code to save this particular data frame in the lakehouse. And now, right, and should take a couple more seconds. And you can be able to see here is the new table that it's creating in the lakehouse. Yeah, so could include table because it's still
I don't care how slow this Copilot is. It's faster than us doing it ourselves any day of the week. That's the thing. People are like, oh, it's slow. Like slower than you doing it? Because that would take a while.
Actually.
All right. And again, that's a lot of information. So we're going to pause now. And in the next video, we're going to pick up on how do you use Copilot to build a machine learning model? Because all of you who studied machine learning back in the day or have never studied it, Copilot can really help you do this. Stay tuned.